Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today, let's talk about how to make easy feather sticks. So as we walk along the trail here, what we're looking for is we're trying to find a piece of wood that is relatively soft and straight. And so what I'm looking for in this part of the woods, as I'm pretty familiar with it, it's on my own property, is I'm looking for a piece of cedar that I can use for cutting and trimming to size for my feather stick. All kinds of stuff around here. Just need to find the right. Oh, I think I see something over there. I think the piece that we're going to use is this stick right here. What we're looking for is something maybe an inch, inch and a half, a little bit larger in diameter that we can cut and split. And then we're also looking for something that is relatively straight and doesn't have a lot of knots in it. Of course, with cedar, you're going to get a lot of those little things anyway, but we're going to try and make it work here. All right, so a nice little piece of dead standing timber here, and it's pretty small. Get our silky saw out and I try to trim off some of these protrusions here. This kind, we want to make sure that it's, you know, probably 16 to 20 inches long. So there's a big knot right here, so I'm going to make sure and cut below that. And then I'm going to go down here and look at this. It's not super straight, but it's straight enough. I'm going to cut it off about right here. Of course, this is our Gomboy 240 with the curved blade. I've been using this a lot lately, and I really like it. It is a great saw. I like the curved edge. So here's what we have. You can see the size of the stick, and so we're gonna try to split this down using our knife and a batoning technique, and then start making some curls. All right, so we found an old stump here, got our piece of cedar, and then just found a downed tree and cut off a piece of solid hardwood and stripped the bark off of it. It was already loose. It's still pretty damp. Of course, this is the spring of the year. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to split this. You can see it's fairly straight. It's not super straight. It's got some knots in it, but I think it'll serve for our purpose. So using our Big Brother bushcraft blade here. And this is one of those times when you might actually want to baton something. And keep in mind, of course, when you baton wood, that it doesn't always go just perfectly straight like you want it, but as you can see there, it actually just shaved off a sliver. That's all right. So we're going to keep working at it here, and when we get it shaved down, we'll get back to you. But this blade that I designed just really works excellent for this. It has almost perfect ergonomics for batoning if you should need to use it like that. All right, so we've got a pretty good piece of wood here, and let's get right away to our techniques. All right, so the first technique that I want to teach you is, of course, your standard technique where you start shaving this way, okay? Now, I have a lanyard on my knife. There's a reason for that. Not only does it help me not drop my knife, especially if I'm working over water or something, but it's actually fire cord. So inside of it, I have a little extra tinder in case I need to start a fire. But when you're splitting wood and you're getting it batoned down and you're trying to find something to shave for making good curls, you're looking for these edges here. All right, so any of these pieces of wood here that has an edge on it, you're looking for that section right there. So this first technique that we're using. I like to have it long enough, so anywhere from 16 to 20 inches, maybe 24 inches, but long enough that I can put my chest against it like this. So I can help hold it and find something that you can shave against. And basically you just want to take your knife and you just want to start, and you want to start following the edge. And of course the thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not going too deep. Okay? And not all of your curls are going to stay on the stick, but you want to follow that edge that you're creating all the way down. Now, again, I designed this knife, so it has a little different ergonomics than some. But one of the things you have to know about making knives and making good curls like this when you're trying to start a feather stick, and you can see there we've got a nice mass of curls. But your blade profile is really important, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But anyway, so basically you just want to start where you can find an edge. You may have to shave some of it off, get it started, you know, if you find a rough spot. But again, the technique's the same. You want to find that edge, and then you want to follow it. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. Some people use their arm really stiff like this and move their whole body. I tend to like to use my knife in sort of a slicing motion. So give you an idea of what it looks like while I'm cutting is I'm starting like this and I'm slicing that way. Okay, and I've kind of lost my edge here, so, but all right, let's try with this other corner here. There we go. All right, let's cut that off. Now let's turn it over here. And so again, using a slicing technique, you can slice that way, like this, starting from the back and kind of pulling forward, or you can start in like this and go down. Now, your blade profile really matters, okay? This type of blade here is a convex grind, which is the strongest grind, generally speaking, on a knife blade. Of course, around my neck I have my Morikans ball, and that is a Scandinavian grind. And these are actually much better knives for woodworking, and you can get usually much finer curls with a knife like this. As you can see already, because of the grind and the way it's made. Now, one thing about Scandinavian grinds is they are a little more delicate as far as the edge is concerned. All right, now that we're down to where some of the knots are gone, again, we take our knife, we start this way, and we start slicing. And we're trying to follow that edge that we're making. And you want to always try not to cut too deep. And there are a lot of guys out there that are really good at this. I mean, they make some super fine feather sticks. The important thing is that you have to have that little fine edge for starting a fire. And you know, the better you get at it and the more you practice, the easier it becomes for you. And different sticks carve differently. Some sticks make really good feather sticks and other sticks won't. So, and you just keep whittling it down and going for your little fine shavings there. Until it's down to almost nothing. And of course, when you get it down to this point, you can either stick this whole stick in the fire, or you can just, what I often do is I'll just break it off, use that part, and then start with this edge and make another feather stick. So that's the knife technique. Okay, for this next method, I want to show you something that I learned from Lars, Survival Russia. Some of you perhaps watch his channel. If you don't, I would encourage you to go over there. I'll leave a link in the description below. But taking our Big Brother Bushcraft blade here, and this works best, you don't really even have to cut or split anything. If you just find something that's downed and of course up off the ground where it's dry, and basically you take your blade and you hold on to it like so that you're not cutting yourself, of course, like this, and you don't want to grab a hold of the blade. It is very sharp, and you're coming back this way with it. Okay, so you're shaving, and a lot of times you have to get you a bit of a flat spot, but it's using it like a plane. And once you get you a spot started, then it's a lot easier to make this happen. And I do want to caution you to be very, very careful whenever you're working with a blade like this toward yourself. Of course, my arms are very stiff, so I'm not actually going to hit myself. My elbows will hit my body before the blade gets close to me. All right, that's a pretty good curl right there. And of course, you have all these thin edges here, and then it rolls down into the thicker edges, and you can kind of see the type of feather sticks that we're creating with this Vanka method. All right, and there's another one. So this works pretty good. It's definitely a different method, and one that I think you should add to your toolbox. The advantage of it is, of course, that you do not have to cut anything with a saw. All you need to do is find a piece of timber, shave it flat, and you know, start making your curls. All right, so this last method that I want to show you was demonstrated by Tom's Backwoods, and 3 or 4 years ago. But this is a really neat technique, and basically just using your spoon knife. You want to take your cedar wood, and of course the diameter has to be small enough to fit inside of the hook. But you just take it, and for those of you who are just beginners to making curls, you're really going to love this, because this right here is the fastest and easiest way that I have ever seen to make wood shavings. And I mean, once you get the technique down, as long as your wood doesn't slide off, get it braced here. All right. And again, following that principle of shaving the edge and just working your way around, you don't even have to be really good at this to make some fantastic curls and shavings. And it's really, really quick. I mean, it just doesn't take any time at all. And even if they don't stay on the stick and you shave them off, this right here, for novices and for beginners, people that are just trying to get into bushcraft and they want to do a feather stick and they want to start a fire quick and they don't quite have the technique down, it's pretty hard to beat this. I mean, it will really shave you some beautiful curls in a very short amount of time. And I know there's some guys like Ray Mears that are just absolutely fantastic and fabulous with this kind of stuff, and they make an art form out of it. But you don't have to make it pretty. It's not something that, you know, you may win a competition for necessarily. The biggest thing is that you get your wood shaved down to some nice fine curls that you can set on fire using your ferro rod. All right, that's the purpose, is to get those curls. Okay, so let's talk about how to make better feather sticks, how to get better curls, and what to look for. The first thing that you want to look for and be aware of is the type of wood. You want a soft wood, like a cedar or a pine or perhaps a tulip poplar. Kind of the same thing that you would use perhaps when you're making a friction fire set. You'd be able to indent it with your fingernail, and that should be soft enough to give you good curls. It doesn't need to be dry standing firewood. You don't want to pick up something off the ground that's wet, because obviously if you're going to try to strike it with a ferro rod, you want it to light, so it has to be dry. You want it to be as free of knots as possible and fairly straight. Pardon the wind if that's causing a problem. It's one of those windy spring days. But yeah, basically you want to be as straight and as free of knots as possible, just because it's going to cause problems with your blade. When you go down, you're going to keep hitting those knots. You're not going to get a smooth curl. You're not going to get a good feather out of your stick. You need to make sure and shave from the sharp angles that you're forming. As soon as you make a flat edge, go to that sharp corner and shave it off, and then work your way around the stick as you do that with your knife. And again, you want it to be about 16 to 20 inches long. Make sure that you use an anvil or a stump. An anvil meaning something that you can baton on or scrape against. If you can help it, don't use a stone or something like that, because if you slip and miss, as you often will when you're shaving these curls and making your feather sticks, it'll slam through and it'll hit right into your blade on that rock, and it'll dull your knife really quick, and of course you don't want to do that. Make sure you know the type of knife grind that you have. I always tell people make sure that it's not a serrated edge. Serrated edges are sold and marketed to a broad range of people. They're really good for working around water, cutting lines and ropes and things. But when it comes to bushcraft and survival, you do not want a serrated edge knife. You just want a plate edge knife. Also, the grind is important. Like I said, a Scandi grind seems to work best for making really good feather sticks, but you can use almost any kind of grind as long as you know your blade and you get your technique down of how you're going to handle. You're going to push either with your hand like this or with your body using your shoulder and your arm as a kind of a stiff lever. Make sure that when you're cutting your feather sticks, you cut close to the handle here where you have the largest degree of control over the knife. That's very important. If you try to go out here to the edge, you're going to find out you don't have very good control and your shavings go all over the place and you won't be able to get long, thin curls. Next, your knife needs to be sharp. You cannot make good feather sticks with a dull knife. Some safety tips. Make sure and watch your hands, or wear gloves, leather gloves preferably, but just keep your eye on what you're doing and make sure you don't slice yourself. Always, of course, cut away from yourself unless you're using the Vanka technique, which I showed you before, which is to hold the knife like this very carefully. You can see, hold it like this, and you're pulling this way in a draw knife fashion. And it's probably a good idea for new beginners to hold this edge with a pair of leather gloves. All right, well, I hope you found this helpful. These are our 3 techniques for easy curls. Of course, the knife technique, the Vanka technique, and then using the hook blade or a spoon blade from Mora knives. All right, well, we've got ourselves a mighty fine pile of shavings here. Let's see if we can get it lit. Yeah, I'd say it does pretty well. And again, that was with no fine dust. That's just simply using the fine curls that we made. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. Please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure to press that bell button to stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.